names to include something about yourself, or I should say what media outlet you're coming from, just so we know, and so that we can better document your questions that if you could send in the chat would be great whenever they come up, and we will field those and save them for our Q&A, which will be happening at the end. So yeah, if you could please adjust your names if you're media on this call, on the Zoom. We also have our speakers today, and we have a live stream going on YouTube right now. So yes, if you could just adjust. And we will begin in just a moment. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Misty Pigram, and I am a member of Anak Bayan Hawaii. Thank you all for joining us today to hear from the different speakers from the Tanggol Migrante Network, or Defend Migrant Workers Network, led by Migrante USA, the International Migrants Association, the National Alliance for Filipino Concerns, Kabataan Alliance, and Gabriela USA. The Tanggol Migrante Network has been working tirelessly to help support and bring to light the cases of Filipino migrants who have been affected by the Trump administration's authoritarian policies on immigration, which violates even the US's own laws on due process. If you could go to the next slide, please. More so, the Defend Migrant Workers campaign aims to help people understand that those being targeted and detained by ICE are not simply numbers. They're real people who have been pushed out of their homelands for one reason or another. And with that, the Tanggol Migrante Network has been working to hold the Filipino government accountable for its lack of protection for Filipino nationals. Next slide, please. In multiple instances, we have seen how institutions like the Philippine Embassy have failed to meet with members of the Tanggol Migrante campaign. And just recently, the Philippine Embassy released a statement documenting their refusal because of a quote-unquote lack of sincerity, when in reality, it has been the Philippine state who has shown their lack of sincerity. And not only have they weaponized the bureaucracy to avoid accountability, they've also shown their incompetence in even knowing about Filipino detainments and deportations until it was too late. If we could go to the next slide. And more often than not, it has been the Tanggol Migrante Network in partnership with the affected families and migrants who have informed the consulates and embassy of these cases. And the actions and response of the Philippine government to the demands of the Tanggol Migrante Network has shown both their disrespect towards their own citizens and their condoning of Trump's attacks against immigrants. And so before we begin with our first speaker, Ate Nerissa, we would like to point out that we have been continuously working with detained migrants from different areas. In particular, we are aware of several Filipinos, for example, who have been detained in Aurora, Colorado, including Kuya Jimmy, who wanted to share something with us today, but was unable to because of blackouts affecting their detention center, and which is another point that we'd like to raise in looking at the conditions of our migrant Filipinos and immigrants in general in the different detention centers across the country. And so with that, we'd like to pass on the mic to Ate Nerissa, who is the wife of Cuisinart, who was deported ahead of the May 26th date without their knowing. Ate Nerissa is also a caregiver and an organizer in their area and has recently had their experience confronting the LA consulate, which they will be sharing shortly. So we can pass.
Okay, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Good morning, all. My name is Narissa. My husband, Zanar's husband. Zanar was detained at the Aurora Detention Center for almost 3 years and left us here in San Diego. Since then, we haven't been able to see him and the kids. When I called the consulate asking for resources, I explained what's going on to my husband. Then he will be scheduled for his deportation. Bernice asked why I'm asking help or assistance if my husband was already going home. I explained that my husband is on medication for stomach condition. And she told me that once he arrives in the Philippines, he should go to DSWD or OWA, and that the consulate could no longer help since he's already back in the Philippines. Senar was deported May 16, 2025. They took him 10 days earlier without us knowing. The officer lied to him, telling him he will be scheduled for deportation on May 26, 2025. We went to LA consulate, and my experience was terrible. They told us to write letter explaining my husband's situation. Ate Kitty was able to convince the man at the window to listen to my husband's story for just 2 minutes. After hearing us, After hearing us, he admitted the consulate should have contacted and visited my husband while he was in detained. I told them that now my husband is already in the Philippines, they need to check our kababayans detained in our facilities to ensure they are okay. We were also directed to the 22nd floor where we spoke with a woman named Macy's. She was very unprofessional. When I was began to explain, she kept interrupting and changing the subject. She kept repeating question about whether my husband is permanent resident and what his status is. She was yelling. She was busy and instigating my contact information. I felt like didn't at all about what's happening in our community, especially to those detained seeking help like my husband. Since my husband was detained, we've been living paycheck to paycheck. I'm always behind rent, always constantly borrowing money from family or taking loans. Now, he's in the Philippines. He also needs his medication. It's hard for him to start over without us. This past 3 years without him have been difficult. I've been lied to our children, telling them daddy will be home soon. It's been heartbreaking, especially now. I inform one of our close friends. I'm sorry. I informed one of our close friends that my husband was scheduled for deportation. She said someone might be willing to help and fight for my husband's rights. I received a call from Tanggol Migrante, who listened our story and truly supported us. They helped us to pay part of our rent, sent assistance for my husband, and even visited our home 3 times. They spoke with our children, to help them understand what's happened to their dad. Now, I no longer feel alone. I know that our community will continue to stand together and fight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ate Narissa, for sharing. We can really see how the Philippine government has really shown their lack of not even just accountability, but their lack of sympathy and empathy towards not just the migrants themselves, but towards their families, and and showing the real lack of support for Filipinos who end up being deported back to the Philippines. At the beginning, when Trump was first elected, there was a statement by the, I think, ambassador of the Philippines, Romualdez, that Filipinos should self-deport, but at no point did they talk about any kind of support for Filipinos who are forced out of the Philippines because of a lack of opportunity, because of a lack of any economic sustainability back home, and why they're forced to come to the United States and other countries abroad to support their families, to put food on the table. And that is the reality for a lot of Filipinos who make their way over here, and to different parts of the world. And so with that, we see that it's not even whether or not someone is quote unquote legally here in the United States that they are being targeted, as John from the Hawaii Workers Center will share with us the incident of J1 teachers who were detained by ICE on Maui. And so with that, we'll pass the mic on to John.
Good morning, everyone. I am Nelson John from Hawaii Worker Center. We are definitely living in dangerous times. Slow enforcement are done to inflict harm rather than to inflict harm to people, even if they are here legally. In the morning of May 7 or May 6, 2025, ICE police with their guns drawn detained 10 J1 teachers from the Philippines. It's a very intense way of interrogating people. They were actually put into uh, a situation where they were shocked, they were harassed, like what Senator Hirono wrote. This is pure harassment. The J1 teachers are here to help in the gap between the teachers and that 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 needs to teach our children in Hawaii. They've already sacrificed being away from their children and even vacating their position in the Philippine public school teachers. They have sacrificed already to come, and they were actually being harassed, affected by the implementation of a uh, immigration policy that is not following the rule of law, due process, and this is what Hawaii Workers Center is trying to give help in um, highlighting these issues that no one should go into such harassment. No one should be put into a position that you are being questioned at the barrel of a gun. And yeah, so Hawaii Workers Center will be here to help in what way that we could help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nelson, John, for sharing. I, as he mentioned, one thing that's really important over the past few months, and as we've seen with the network, is the support of the community in providing resources in providing ways for these impacted families and migrants to find support. And a lot of the time, it is not coming from the Philippine government, from which, they are citizens of. And, again, despite this, their legal status and being here legally, that's no longer a guaranteed protection for especially these J1 teachers who have been through a lot, especially those in Maui who, even during the fires in Lahaina, um, where they were also affected, they were not given any support. And we see now, even with the the influx of detainments, and the need for legal counsel, among other things, and supporting like rent and basic needs of the families who are being impacted. One of our calls is the release of the Assistance to Nationals Fund, which is supposed to help migrants in distress wherever they may be, and yet that hasn't been an option or was even given as an option to Filipino nationals impacted by things that are truly distressing, like the current attacks on immigrants and the attacks on their rights. And so with that, we'd like to turn over the mic to Pat Ursela, who is from Migrante Daily City.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Pat. I'm with Migrante Daily City. Um, so what folks were mentioning just now, it's the responsibility of the consular officials to assist nationals in distress. We've seen in some cases where the consulates of Mexico and Ireland were actually able to assist their nationals who are facing a lot of these problems, especially right now, with some of their nationals being caught up in the detention centers. For us, we have actually tried to call for the help of the embassy and the specific consulates in our respective areas to assist many of these Filipinos who are currently in ICE detention centers. In particular, for us here in the San Francisco Bay Area, we have Consul General Neil Ferrer, whose jurisdiction expands to, I believe, not just Northern California, but to Alaska, to Washington, Oregon, um, and up until now, it's been unfortunately really a lot of nothing in response to our folks who are in detention centers right now. We've tried many times to send in a delegation to meet with the consul general himself. We had tried to offer up our letter of demands to see if they would be able to move on them to help folks like Auntie Lynn, who's currently in custody, only to be met with nothing, unfortunately. Um, we had actually been at the consulate yesterday for a mobilization, and we had actually saw the Vice Consul General Adrian Bakai tried to sneak out of the building. And when we tried to flag him down to ask him what he would do to help, he actually ran away from us. Um, and when we got back, we actually caught the Consul General himself, Neil Ferrer, exiting the building. So we had actually approached him and started to walk alongside him and I believe his assistant. And we were just trying to pose some questions, basic questions about what would you do to actually help folks like Auntie Lynn? What are you going to be able to do to concretely ensure the safety and the release of these people who are supposed to be the people that you are serving, the people that you are accountable to? He walked straight faced, not looking any of us in the eye, walking to the parking garage. He had muttered something under his breath after we had questioned him multiple times along the lines of, "You already know my response. I said what I had to say already." And I had to clarify with him, well, what is it that you're trying to do? What we're asking for is very simple. What will you do to help our kababayan who are in these detention centers languishing, who are being neglected of their health, who are being fed things like raw chicken in these detention centers. Um, and unfortunately to that, he had no response, um, which just shows the lack of heart that these representatives, these so-called representatives of the people actually have. So, for us in Migrante, and then as well as the Tanggol Migrante network, of course, we're very disappointed that these officials seem to not want to lift a finger to help our people who are in need. That to that we say you still do have a chance to help, but you're quickly losing the trust of your constituents, of your people. So it's our hope that they can come to the table, that they themselves can be sincere in actually wanting to help our kababayan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pat, for sharing. Um, yeah, we could see definitely how the consulates in the respective areas are almost literally running away from the responsibility of helping our kababayan or, our fellow Filipinos, whether they're in the detention center or being proactive about ensuring the protection of our Filipino migrants. And as Pat mentioned, we see the case of Auntie Lynn, who, as will be shared, she was detained straight from the airport on her trip back from the Philippines. And we've seen different cases where Filipino nationals and those, who are green card holders are also not safe from persecution from the current administration. We've seen how they are literally being waited for at the airport, unable to even go back home before they are arrested and sent to a detention center, as we've seen with other folks like Kuya Max, who was another case where he was detained after returning from the Philippines. And for a lot of Filipino nationals, there's a really big fear of going back home because they don't know if they'll be able to make it back despite their legal status in the United States. And so with that, I would like to pass on the mic to Auntie Lani, who is the niece of Auntie Lynn, who will share some of the latest developments around her case. So yeah, Auntie Lani.
Good morning. My name is Melanie Madriaga, Lani for short, and I'm Llewellyn Dixon's oldest niece. Thank you for the opportunity to address everyone today regarding my Auntie Lynn's case. I stand before you not just as a concerned advocate, but as a member of our family deeply worried about her well-being. I'm here to outline challenges we faced in seeking assistance from the Philippine consulate following Auntie Lynn's detention by ICE at the Northwest ICE Detention Center on March 2nd. Our experience highlights critical gaps in the support systems for Filipino nationals in distress, and we hope to work with them to improve these services. But more than that, I'm here to share the story of Auntie Lynn and the desperate situation she's in. On March 3rd, I contacted the Philippine consulate in Hawaii to inform them of Auntie Lynn's detention and to seek guidance and assistance with her release. The response was that the matter fell outside their jurisdiction and that we should contact the Los Angeles office. Unfortunately, detailed contact information was not provided, and the application to nationals, the ATN program, was not mentioned. Given the time difference, the urgency of the situation, and the immediate need to secure legal representation, we were unable to connect with the Los Angeles office in a timely manner. We felt lost and overwhelmed, unsure where to turn. Driven by the urgency of the situation, our family mobilized all available resources to secure legal counsel. On March 4th, after initial difficulties, we retained attorney Benjamin Osorio from Virginia. Despite financial constraint, we used credit cards to secure his services, recognizing critical importance of immediate legal intervention. Attorney Osorio quickly identified the reason for Auntie Lynn's detention, a decades-old embezzlement conviction from 2001, information previously unknown to our family. He immediately requested a hearing to prevent deportation proceeding, which was initially scheduled for March 11th. This hearing successfully halted the deportation and led to a merit hearing originally set for July 17 and subsequently moved to May 29, which is tomorrow. We believe this expedited hearing was the result of a collaborative effort involving legal counsel, community advocacy, and media attention, including the crucial support of Tanggol Migrante. On March 21st, my niece Emily Cristobal successfully connected with media outlets in Hawaii, resulting in national and international news coverage of Auntie Lynn's case. Following the media's exposure on March 31st, Tanggol Migrante reached out to our family, providing invaluable support, resources, and guidance. They informed us about the Philippine Consulate's financial assistance program for nationals in distress and assisted us in completing the ATN application, which was only available in Tagalog. The initial application was submitted via email on April 2nd. On April 6th, my sister Donna Cristobal, her son Jacob Dela Cruz, my daughter Yasmin Antonio, and a representative from Tanggol Migrante met with General Counsel Neil Ferrer and two consulate assistants. The purpose of this meeting was to clarify the Philippine consulate's responsibilities and the types of assistance available to detained Filipino nationals. We were informed that the initial ATN application had not been received, so we resubmitted it that day. During that meeting, General Counsel Ferrer informed us that consular assistants had visited Antioquia to offer support and brought a pro bono attorney the following day. We were told that weekly check-ins and updates on her court proceedings would be provided, but unfortunately, this commitment was not fulfilled. We felt abandoned and forgotten. On May 9th, my brother Will Cristobal, his wife Marilu Cristobal, grandniece Emily, a representative from Tanggol Migrante, which was Misty, and I met with General Counsel Armand Talbo. Our goal was to gain clarity on accessing assistance from the Philippine consulate, not only for Antolin, but also to other Filipino nationals facing similar situations. This meeting was particularly relevant given the recent detention of a group of Filipino nationals teachers from Maui on April 6, highlighting a broader pattern of unjust detentions. We would like to thank the Honolulu Consulate for helping to bridge us with the San Francisco Consulate. We appreciate their efforts in connecting us. We are grateful that San Francisco Consulate reached out to Antolin after our meeting with our Honolulu Consulate. We understand they were trying to offer support. However, at that time, Antolin was under immense emotional distress, preparing for her upcoming hearing. She was afraid of getting her hopes up, then facing a disappointment or promises not being kept, as had that happened before. We appreciated the gesture, but she wasn't in a place to fully engage. We are also grateful that representative from the San Francisco Consulate will be attending Antolin's merit hearing tomorrow. We see this as a positive step and appreciate their presence. However, we also know that attendance alone is not enough. We still need your help. She has been in distress trying to figure out what to say to the judge and how to explain why she deserves to stay in America, the only home she's truly known since she was a child. The pressure is immense. We are excited, but also incredibly anxious about her upcoming merit trial tomorrow. It feels like everything is riding on tomorrow. Tanggol Migrante has orchestrated their members to ensure that someone visits Lynn regularly. Other detainees have even commented how she looks as if she isn't affected by being detained, that she doesn't seem sad or worried. But she told them that she is sad, anxious, and fearful. She explained that she stays strong because she has her family supporting her, but also a community that hardly knows her yet cares deeply. And it's not just Auntie Lynn. We also want to bring to your attention the cases of recent detainees, Max Landinio, Dante Rivera, who are also in need of assistance. Their situation highlights the urgent need for a more comprehensive and responsive support system for Filipino nationals facing detention. We want to be clear that embassies should not view Tanggol Migrante's request for a meeting as a lack of sincerity. They have been our advocates and provided the community support that our family desperately needed during this incredibly distressing time. They've been invaluable in helping us navigate this complex situation, and we are deeply grateful for their assistance. The lack of adequate and timely support from the Philippine consulate puts other detainees at risk of deportation, even those who are green card holders. Without proper legal assistance and representation, they may not be able to effectively defend their rights and could face unjust deportation. This is not just about Auntie Lynn. It's about protecting all Filipino nationals who are vulnerable to this system. We believe this situation is unprecedented and unjust. We don't want to engage in a blame game. We aim to raise awareness, foster collaboration among community resources, and seek justice for Antolin and others like her. We are committed to collaboration and even an open communication to navigate these challenges and find solutions to better support Filipino nationals in distress. More than that, we are here because every day that Antolin spends in detention takes a toll on her physical and emotional health, and we are desperate for any assistance the embassy can provide. It is vital that detainees have hope in a sense that they are not alone. Knowing that a community and the Philippine government are fighting for them has a tremendous impact on their moral and ability to face this difficult situation. This support can be the difference between giving up and fighting for their right to stay in a place they call home. Auntie Lynn deserves to remain in the United States. She migrated to Hawaii in 1974 at the age of 14. Graduated from Farrington High School in 1997 and has been contributing member of society ever since. Her current employment as a lab technician at University of Washington is vital and important. She is a loving aunt, a caring great aunt, and a beloved tita to all of us. We understand that the embassy has forwarded our concerns to Manila, but we implore you to consider the urgency of our situation. We are not experts in politics or diplomacy, but we are deeply concerned about our Antillan and other detainees. And we believe that the Philippine Embassy has a responsibility to help its citizens in distress. We need help navigating the legal system, understanding their rights, and ensuring she has access to proper medical care. We're open to any suggestions or resources the embassy can offer. In closing, on behalf of my family, I extend our deepest gratitude to the community of friends who stood by us and paved the path to justice. Your unwavering compassion and support have been invaluable and will never be forgotten. Our experience has highlighted the need for improved communication, readily accessible information about available resources, and consistent follow through from the Philippine consulate in cases involving detained nationals. We hope that by sharing our story, we can contribute to a more effective and compassionate support system for Filipinos in distress. But most of all, we hope that you will hear our plea and help us bring Antillin home along with other detainees. Please note that a letter was sent to the Philippine governments from the family where we received over 350 plus endorsements from across the country. Salamat, aloha, mahalo, and thank you all.
Hello, Auntie Lenny. Thank you for sharing the updates on Auntie Lynn's case and sharing that we really see the community support, and all of us are here to support Auntie Lynn, especially in the hearing tomorrow, from wherever we are throughout the country. We see there's over hundreds of us in support of Auntie Lynn. And she was very right in saying that this is also not just about Auntie Lynn, but about protecting all Filipino nationals who are vulnerable to the current administration's policies that they're enacting against immigrants, and that we really need the support of the Philippine government. We need clear communication. We need information on what services are actually available to our Filipino migrants in detention and to their families, and really addressing also the root causes of why Filipinos are forced to migrate to the United States and why they are put in this precarious position. And so with that, we'd like to invite Katie from Migrante USA to share more on, for one, the embassy's comment at the beginning of the insincerity of the Tanggol Migrante network, but also calling for clear answers and response to the statements made by the Filipino government to the issue of Filipino nationals being detained.
Thank you, Misty. And thank you also to all of the press that joined us today and really the powerful speakers that have shared already. Some have referenced this statement that was released by the Philippine Embassy recently that questioned Tanggol Migrante's sincerity. They said that major protest rallies show this lack of sincerity. Our question is why? Because these protests against unjust treatment have helped Filipinos know that they're not alone. And to face these protests, we feel it would be an opportunity for the Philippine government to listen, to face the people impacted by Trump's mass detention and deportation, people whose families are being torn apart, people whose ability to support their loved ones is under attack. And Ambassador Romualdez recently stated that he would be pleased to work with the US to deport Filipinos to the Philippines. So we're asking, will he work with us? The Trump administration has effectively been disappearing migrants and has threatened to send Filipinos to Libya. So how will our Philippine embassy and consulates prevent this if they do not proactively seek information on where they are and communicate this information in a timely way to loved ones that want to support them and want to know their whereabouts? Ambassador Romualdez also indicated that the embassy would help Filipinos facing deportation problems. And we want to know, what will that look like? Because in reality, there are numerous accounts of Filipinos who have not received any legal support. So in short, there's these three things that we are urging our Philippine embassy and consulates to do. First, to listen to the people that are impacted by mass detention and deportation, not to criticize them for raising their voices, gathering so that they could share their stories and also convey that message to other Filipinos in the US that there's Tanggol Migrante to support and that they're not alone. So first, to listen and to work with Tanggol Migrante. The second is to be proactive in gathering information on Filipinos in detention and up for deportation. And the third is to be timely and effective in extending assistance to nationals, including providing the legal support that they need. Lastly, if we step back to look at the bigger context, Migrante USA also asked for President Marcos Jr. to take steps to address the bigger reality of why thousands are leaving the Philippines every day. One good start is to pass a family living wage. Many organizations have been calling for this 1,200 pesos per day family living wage so that people can live a dignified life in the country. And what's needed is to use the rich land and resources of the Philippines to build the national economy and create jobs at home. So we have to also address that bigger context. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Katie from Migrante. And with that, if we could pull up the slides one more time. Thank you so much. And so with that, that is the last speaker for today. And we would just like to reiterate some of our demands to the Philippine government as the Tanggol Migrante Network, especially given that the current president of the Philippines, Bongbong Marcos, is set to visit the United States and have his meeting with Donald Trump. If we could go to the next slide, please. One more. Or two more, sorry. One more. Okay, there you go. Yes, we would like to reiterate the Tanggol Migrante Network's demands to the Philippine government. First is to proactively search for detained Filipinos in the US and advocate for their well-being. Martin and I, as mentioned earlier, it is the network that has been bringing awareness to the consulates and the embassy about certain cases of Filipinos being detained. So we demand that the Philippine government actually do their due diligence and proactively search for detained Filipinos. Second, to immediately release the Assistance to Nationals Fund for legal services, potential loss of income, family support, and commissary funds for past, present, and future detained Filipinos. We know that this has a huge impact on their well-being. Number three, work towards their release from detention. Four, protect any and all Filipinos from illegal deportations to third countries. Five, for President Marcos to meet with community members from Tanggol Migrante to respond to our concerns and demands when he is in the US for his meeting with President Trump. And finally, to address the root causes of unemployment and forced migration and institute a national minimum wage of 1,200 pesos. And with that, if we could go to the next slide, please. We see that all of these cases are not just a way for, as the Philippine embassy said, this insincerity, but we know that there is a need to move and to help support our Filipino nationals, especially our most vulnerable kababayan. And so the way that we are able to work together is to work with the network to protect Filipino citizens within the US and amplify the stories of our Filipinos in distress and establish rapid response plans to release our detained migrants while making sure to cover any costs through ATN funds and to still meet with our organization. So our call to the Philippine government, to the consulate, to the embassy that is here in the United States is to really, be sincere in what they're saying in their commitment to protecting our kababayan or our fellow citizens in the Philippines and here, and to ensure that that our most vulnerable are the ones who are being protected too. And so we would like to move on to our question and answer portion. If we can move to the next slide. Just a reminder for the media who are here that if you have any questions, please direct them to the user named questions or share in the chat. To begin, we have a question for Katie. So although the Philippine government had not enough to the cases of floor contemplation and other OFWs, nevertheless, the government exerted a bit of diplomatic pressure to the cases of these OFWs. Why do you think that's not the case here in the US? From Zinia Tupas of the Philippine Post. Yeah.
Thank you, Dina, for the question. We actually also have the same question. We would like to see more diplomatic pressure exerted. We want to know why there hasn't been that proactive and more active push. The recent statement given by Romualdez that was published this morning is that he would happily work with the US to assist in the deportation of Filipinos. That's not the type of response that we're hoping for. What we want to see is more active assertion that they would like to see for the rights of Filipinos to be protected, knowing the context that Filipinos are here working to support their families, helping to assert that right for Filipino migrants to work here and to support their families. The facts that we do know is that the Philippine government has different military agreements, other trade agreements with the US government. They have been willing to spend over $5.5 billion on US military equipment, in contrast to about $200 of assistance that is given to Filipinos that are in detention. So is that why they have been silent? We don't know. Like, what is the reason why they are staying so silent in not exerting more pressure and sharing more decisively that they will work to ensure Filipino migrants in this country and their right to work is protected.
Thank you so much for sharing, Katie. And there is actually another question, either for you or John. What is your response to people who say that migrants who are detained are because of their criminal records? And yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna John. Go ahead, John.
Okay.
As we have seen Antillin's case, yeah, these cases actually have been resolved. They have actually been able to made themselves whole with the processes, with the due process of law, and they should not be the reason why they are being deported and denied their rights and their life. So of course people commit mistakes, but previous mistakes should be should not be taken to inflict hardship and undue duress to people. I hope it helps.
Thank you. And I see Auntie Lenny's hand is raised. Did you want to add to that, Auntie Lenny?
Yes, I do. So, initially when we found out about my aunt's convictions, like in 2001, we were very surprised because it felt like she's been retrialed again. So, she's already met all the requirements and all the things that needed to be done. And she was not aware of how her immigration status would have been affected due to that conviction. So the awareness was not there. What's interesting was in a few weeks ago, a Santa Cruz Irish woman was actually detained over San Francisco and actually transferred over to the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma. What was interesting was that she did have a support with the Irish consulates, and they were actually able to vacate her past conviction, even though she was in prison. And so they vacated that, and because of that being vacated, the immigration courthouse identified that she would be excluded and not use that past conviction with her detainment. So she was inappropriately being detained. The reason why I share this information is like, is that what something that Lynn should have done to vacate it so that it gets removed? So these are like new information that's coming from other detainees that it's actually beneficial not only for other attorneys supporting people like my aunt and also for Dante and also for Max as well. But so it's not illegal for them to detain someone with a past conviction. But what's the problem is that it was one of those things that was never really focused on from past administration, but now it is. So, and given the fact that that awareness, not knowing that would be affected was the biggest problem. But again, in a situation where the Irish lady was able to vacate it, like, is that something that what people need to do with having those past convictions? So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much, Auntie Lani. And I
Yeah,
believe Katie also had a response.
I just have to
Okay, go ahead.
say something about that one. Yeah, one of the things that Hawaii Worker Center has been trying to help with other nonprofits in Hawaii is to expand court records. This is a very important process that Filipinos and other who has previous cases to expand your record so that it will not appear when it is scanned. So yeah, this is a very important thing to learn and to do.
Thank you, John. And Katie, I'll pass it to you.
Hi, thank you. Yes. There are these cases where maybe federal law is being invoked, questioning if there was some indication of moral turpitude. They're invoking this as a justification to detain green card holders, for example, and others. We call that into question. We are seeing that Filipinos that are being detained are people that have been working to support their families, people that are even community leaders that have the backing of their community. Tomorrow for Auntie Lynn, there are actions, rallies being planned across the country by SEIU, by other organizations, in addition to Tanggol Migrante, that indicate how the community is standing with her and fighting for her release. And the reality that we heard earlier today from Nerissa, from others, is that when people are detained, there's a deep psychological, physical, economic impact that cannot be undone if they've been wrongfully detained. And what we challenge and call into question is the Philippine government's complicity and its representatives here, Ambassador Romualdez, the different consul generals, their complicity when they delay and they remain silent in allowing for the US government to treat Filipinos like this. When in contrast, there are others that are in the US government itself that are challenging these actions and calling into question Trump's efforts to persecute migrant workers, including others like green card holders, but others that are across immigration status. And so that's the type of action and speaking up that we would like to see from the Philippine government.
Thank you so much, Katie. And with that, we have another question. What legal steps are possible or being done for those detained without the help of the Philippine government? Is there more the community can do to assist? There is one more after that, but let's tackle the first question. If maybe Pat, would you be able to answer?
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of the legal steps or assistance that's being done, I think that's also been the bulk of what the Tanggol Migrante network has been doing. It really is a grassroots effort in terms of trying to conduct fundraising to raise funds for legal support for these Filipino nationals who are currently in detention. Um, I think everything from trying to see um, how just how if they do have previous cases, some are trying to figure out, well, why are these how and why did these cases come back up, and why is it contributing to in current detention when it's already been expunged or rectified. um so those are some of the types of things that we've seen, that we've had practicing with the Tanggol Migrante network, in terms of trying to get this assistance for these folks who are in the detention centers. I think one thing that we can continue to do in terms of community assistance, as well, is such as in the case of Auntie Lynn and some other folks who have been detained inside the Northwest Detention Center, is to continue to provide some of the moral support. So trying to uh, make the opportunities to be able to visit, to be able to hear their stories as well. I think that's been a big help for the folks who are incarcerated, and it really is a way to have the community mobilized to actually throw their full support to get these folks who are unjustly detained released.
Thank you so much, Pat. And we have one more question, or if any of our other speakers would like to add on to that. Um, okay, so the second question is, are there any rough number of folks we know are being detained at the moment, or are there any hotspots in the country? Feel free for the speakers to share, but I will share that from those that we know, there are 4 in the Northwest Detention Center, so that's in Washington, 2 in Aurora, Colorado, 1 in Stewart in Georgia, 1 in Indiana, and 1 in Arizona. And as we've seen recently, especially the Northwest Detention Center, Washington is becoming a hotspot, especially with the recent detentions of people coming back from the Philippines. But one thing that we've been wanting to point out is that um, the Philippine government itself has not been proactive in locating their nationals. Supposedly they are supposed to receive notification, yet they do not know if there are any more. And so, the community has limited access, but the consulates and the embassy has a way to actually get to these Filipino nationals that are being detained. And so the question becomes, why aren't they using these accesses that they have, and do their best to locate them. At the beginning, there were, they had these uh, misconceptions that there were no Filipinos being detained when there were. And so, challenging this idea that they um, they're doing the most that they can, when in reality it's networks like the Tanggol Migrante and the families who are working to find these Filipino nationals and get them the support that they need. Um, and so, um, just because we're running on time here, or running out of time here, um, I don't know if maybe Ate Nerissa or some of the impacted families would like to share something on what your call is to the Philippine government, um, and what can they do to better support the families being impacted, and the Filipino migrants themselves who are being detained.
For me is they need to coordinate with the Philippine consulate regarding to the detainees, like Filipino detainees, different facilities. They need to coordinate with different detention facilities to make sure our compliance are okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ate Nerissa. Auntie Lani, you might want to share your call to the Phil. I know you spoke about it earlier already, but
Yeah. it's going to be mostly in the sense of that, very strong communication and of course the challenges with, the government, them alone can't really fix this, that they you and embrace the community support that what you guys are doing and not making in a sense that and be against of what you guys are trying to accomplish. So that would be my call is that, embrace all the community support are out there and communicate so that, the nationals can be assisted because they're forgetting who they need to help with rather than focusing on the person that's been helped. They're like challenge you guys that you guys are not sincere. That needs to stop. So strong communication and be more taking a more initiative as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Auntie Lenny. And for um, final question to both of you, once again, Ate Nerissa and Auntie Lenny, what is your message to the Filipino community in the United States?
So, given the fact that with all the things that we have done, I mean, we've voiced this from the beginning, and in the sense is like if you're traveling internationally from all the situation from my auntie Lynn, Dante, and Max, it's because of traveling. So I know with the situation with the Maui nurses was a different situation, but don't travel internationally unless seeking assistance with an immigration lawyer is the big key as well. As far as all the other situations, it's that support with the Philippine consulate. I think the awareness and not be fearful to seek assistance from the community. And I think there's a lot of them are probably hiding or just afraid, don't know what to do to embrace the support that Tanggol Migrante, NatCon, and all the communities are out there. That's what I would message for the people out there.
Thank you so much, Auntie Lenny. And Ate Nerissa, did you want to share a message to the Filipino community in the United States?
Yeah, I want to say thank you to all the Tanggol Migrante here in San Diego and to all of you all. So for me, I was afraid and scared about what will happen to my husband, but now I'm here to support also to keep fighting for our kababayans. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, and as we close out our press conference for today, I'd like to thank all the media folks who are here. I would like to invite if any of our speakers have any last words before we end today. Yeah. Okay. If not, we'd like to thank everyone again for joining us. Please feel free to contact us at defendmigrantworkers.org. Our emergency hotline is listed here on the screen. For our friends in the media, we will be releasing a press kit. And please contact us if there are any other concerns or questions. Thank you again so much, everyone, for joining us today. And as we move forward, we know that we will continue to defend the rights and dignity of our migrant workers. So we will continue, and thank you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Hello.